Welcome to the Oddity Shop, where the bizarre is always on sale.
Welcome back, you little oddballs.
Hello.
That's Zach. And I'm Kara.
And I don't like that sing-song voice.
What if I talked like Paris Hilton? Her fake voice, like her baby voice. Hi, guys. How does she even talk? No shade to Paris. I love her.
No, it's not quite a baby voice, but it's like a subtle whisper. I love it. I like
It's a baby
new
voice.
Paris.
Yeah, but she still talks like that.
She's very like ethereal though.
No, she's amazing.
Did you watch her cooking show?
No, but I want to. But okay, so controversial Shane Dawson has a podcast. He'll have conspiracies and stuff on there, but on one of his, it was popped up that he was talking about her. I don't know why they were talking about her, but he was talking about like her baby voice. And he's like, it's funny though, because like you just said, like new Paris, like she came out, she's like, yeah, that was all an act. Like it was, I was putting it on as a show. Like it's pretty brilliant. But there's this video that she did with Patrick Starr, and he's doing her makeup. And she's like, it's weird because she's talking.
I'm sorry.
You don't know
Who's
Patrick
doing
Starr?
her makeup?
Patrick Starr. He's a makeup artist. Google.
You're not trying to say Jeffree Star, right?
No, Patrick Starr. Go look him
from
up, please.
SpongeBob.
Pat, go look him up right now. I'll give you 5 seconds.
I'll trust you.
No, go do it, because you're laughing at me like I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I just thought you were making this up. Like, whose name is actually Patrick Starr?
Yeah, he's a super successful makeup artist in his own brand and everything.
Okay, I've seen this person before.
Did you look him up?
Yes.
Anyway, he's doing her makeup, and in this clip, she's literally talking like her baby voice, and she's like, yeah, it's like all great, and it's like she fucking gets comfortable and forgets, and then she starts talking like her normal Paris, like her actual voice, and then it's like you see that she like clicks and realizes, and then she just goes back to her baby voice. But they were talking about it on that podcast, and I was like, that's really funny.
Okay, so one of my favorite things I've ever seen from her is there's this TikToker I found. He does, I think he's the same guy who does the ASAP science videos on YouTube, but he made this TikTok where he basically,
I don't know if I've seen those,
admits to breaking into her car one time and stealing her sunglasses, and how he has her sunglasses, and he ends it with like, Paris, please don't be mad at me. Well, she duets the TikTok and shows that she's replaced them.
Wait, how long ago did he do this?
Years ago.
Okay.
And he's like talking about how him and his friend who stole them, like the sunglasses go between them. It's like the traveling sunglasses.
That's all they stole, were just her sunglasses?
Yes. So she had gotten like out of a car at an event, so they just like jumped in it. And she was like, it's fine. Keep the sunglasses. I hope you enjoy them. Like, it was just so down to earth about it. I love it.
I guess like wow.
I'll have to send you the video.
Yeah, I guess what else would you have done?
Right? Should we make the admission to all of our listeners?
You don't have a question? You don't have a question?
No, I have a question. I always have a question. The admission is, we promised you that we would go to the Whitney and then report back to you.
I don't know if we promised. I think that we said that we were going to try to go.
We literally said we were going to go and we'll report back.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's the scenario. The Ghost Bar is not open on Saturday, or on this Saturday it wasn't open, and they were only open till 9 on Fridays, and I worked till 7:30. So we'll go, and we couldn't go. We'll
report it. Now, you know what we do need to do soon too. Quick shout out to my cousin Adam. He just became a certified paranormal investigator at Eloise in Michigan. The old He's fully certified now, so we do need to go plan our ghost hunt with him and report back to you guys on. We got to do a whole story on Eloise.
Well, he should probably just be on here and tell it to us.
Like a guest speaker.
Yeah, because why would we tell it when he works there?
All right, Adam, I'm not going to message you before this comes out. I'm just going to let you listen to it and find out that you're going to be a guest star.
Yeah, he'll be down.
Oh, yeah. Cool. What else do we have going on in our lives right now?
Nothing.
Fair. We're not the most exciting people right now.
Spent hours. Well, now it's like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I don't know how many weeks ago. hours doing TikToks for y'all.
We are branching out into new methods of social media that I never thought at like basically 30 years old I would be making TikToks. Although I guess by the time this episode airs, I will be 30 years old. I'm an old man now.
How do you feel about it?
Well, right now, for real, I feel okay about it because I'm still in my 20s. When everyone else is listening to this, ask me again because I'll be 30 and decrepit. Anyways, are you ready for a question?
Are you kidding? Am I decrepit?
Yeah, basically. Are you ready for a question?
Are you ready to get stabbed?
It's like a long drive, so
I'll make that drive to stab you. It's not
you are
that
not
long.
decrepit. And honestly, I think I've grieved 30 for the last 2 years, so where right now I'm not even really that bothered by
Honestly, 30's much better. I've been here for 3 and some change now. I like it.
See, I everyone I know in their 30s does like it, and what I'm looking forward to is like people just say like in your 30s you just stop giving a shit about what anybody else thinks.
Honestly,
I'm just gonna embrace being a really big weirdo. So
honestly, I just don't care.
Okay, are you ready for the question now?
Oh, and then you'll have your birthday present for me.
Ooh, better be a good one.
You're gonna pee. I don't know when I'm going to be able to give it to you, though. That's the sad part. What's today? Today's the 30th. Oh, if it's really the 30th when we're talking to you, I'm on a cruise.
Oh, yeah.
I come back tomorrow, so.
Well, I'm going to ask you a fifth time. Are you ready for your question? If you were to die in some sort of disaster, natural or otherwise.
No. I hate this.
What kind of disaster would it be and why?
I'd rather be murdered. Is that a disaster? Kill me. You said natural or otherwise. What's otherwise?
Well, natural would be like an earthquake. Otherwise would be like a car accident.
I don't think I should put this out in the universe. All my manifesting, it might get mistaken.
Fair enough.
I don't know. What's your pick?
We
Sinking
all know
on
my
the
pick,
ship.
and it's going to relate so much. It would have to be going down on a cruise ship. I want to live or die. My own Titanic fantasy. Like I want to go down, top hat, glass of wine, cigar, waiting for the water to take me.
I'm very happy that you're finally doing this, or you are doing this, but I'm really kind of pissed off at you that you're doing this like 2 weeks before I go on a cruise.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that lineup. Anyways, since I haven't announced the episode yet, Kara knows where this is going. I'm covering the one, the only, my favorite ship in the world, the Titanic.
It's not your favorite ship. It's your favorite, really anything. It's like your favorite story, your hobby, your...
I'll give the 30-second backstory in a second.
Obsession.
First, I got to give a shout out because I was talking to a coworker, Sarah. We call her Sarazona because she's in Arizona, about the Titanic. And she goes, you should do an episode about this. So Sarah, here's your shout out. Okay, so I've been literally obsessed with the Titanic since the movie came out. I watched it way too young as a child. I would really watch it on repeat, but only the second VHS because that's when like it really got good. Yes, I grew up in a time where movies came out if they were too long on 2 VHS.
Yeah, but it wasn't even movies. That was like the first one. I feel like that was 2. Like that wasn't a common thing.
No. It's a long movie. Okay, the obsession goes deep though. Like I have a Lego Titanic. I have 2 shrines in my house with like replicas of the second class china. It's okay. When I was a kid, we went on a boat tour under the falls up in Mackinac, not Mackinac, Niagara Falls.
I was gonna say that doesn't sound right, but okay.
And the tour guide says, does anybody have any questions? And I raised my hand and said, yeah, if we had an iceberg, would we sink as fast as the Titanic? Mind you, this boat held like 50 people. So anyways, yes, been obsessed with the Titanic for way too long.
What was the response?
I don't even remember.
Shut your child up?
Pretty sure he was just like, yeah. But we're going to talk about conspiracy theories around how the Titanic may have actually sank or may not have sank at all. Okay,
so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go get Aaron and I'm going to swap out. I'm going to go take a shower and go to bed. And Aaron's going to sit here. And it's going to be a way much better podcast because you two both equally obsess over the Titanic. And this is going to be a way better episode. Okay, so when Kara and Aaron first got together, we had planned to maybe murder Kara and take her life insurance money so that me and him could go see the Titanic. Hold on.
Yeah.
Why were you and Zach gonna murder me?
I think to claim a life insurance policy, then go on Titanic.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. I love how there was just no like, oh yeah, it was for the life insurance.
We had plans. So there we go. Point proven. Okay, so we can't cover the Titanic without at least giving some of the background, some of the history. Most of you probably know some of this, but here we go. The Titanic was a ship built by the White Star Line. It was built in Belfast, Ireland. And at the time, it was the largest and most luxurious ship that had ever been built.
Luxurious.
Now I can't speak today. In fact, the Grand Staircase had a lovely new type of flooring that only the most rich of the rich could afford.
Okay, I do know what it was made out of, but now I just drew a blank.
Vinyl rolled flooring. The cheapest flooring nowadays was actually the most luxurious at that time, which is just insane to me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even tile or anything. It was vinyl. Anyways, the ship was designed by Thomas Andrews. He was a naval architect and in charge of the plans for the Titanic. He is the man behind the rumors that the Titanic was unsinkable due to its hull construction, and more importantly, the watertight compartments with extra large bulkheads that would keep the water from flowing between watertight compartments. He was also the one behind the cheap rivets, which may have been part of the catastrophic failure that caused the ship to sink. But besides the point. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So upon completion, the Titanic was launched from Belfast May 31st, 1912, and then it went from Ireland to England. On April 10th, 1912, it was set to cross the ocean on its maiden voyage from Southampton, England, and was headed for New York City. The ship carried 2,224 passengers and crew, about 850 were crew. And this thing was like super, super nice, right? It was decked out with a mailroom, a gymnasium, a swimming pool, multiple smoking rooms, a Turkish bath, and like way more fancy items than any other cruise ship at the time.
Why did there need to be a mailroom?
So it was the RMS Titanic Royal Mail Ship, and it got that name by carrying mail from England to the United States.
I do remember that.
Because at this time, mail was basically more boat than it was plane.
Yeah.
So the Titanic was captained by Robert Smith, and he had set out basically to make record time crossing the Atlantic. So the crew was pushing the limits of the ship. Not only do they want to be the largest ship to cross the Atlantic, but they wanted to be the fastest.
Which it's like, come on, you can be settle with one. It's still amazing.
We're going to hit a theory that talks about why.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So while making record time, obviously the unimaginable happened. So April 14th at 11:40 p.m., Frederick Fleet is in the crow's nest, so the lookout. And he's just kind of, chilling, watching the vibes, making sure nothing's coming across. It was a chilly night.
Watching the vibes.
Watching the vibes. Chilly night. It's about 38 degrees. Air was quite clear. However, it was really dark because obviously they're in the middle of the ocean. At the last minute, Frederick spots an iceberg in the distance. He immediately radios down to the bridge where William Murdoch answers. Murdoch orders that the ship steer around the obstacle and that they immediately throw the engines into the reverse to slow her speed because the ship was going at full speed. However, it was far too late. So on the starboard side of the ship, the Titanic ran along an iceberg and it created a series of holes under the waterline into 5 of the ship's watertight compartments.
Sir, I have a question. What side is the starboard side?
That would be the right side, and now I'm second guessing myself. Hold on.
It's the right side.
Is it?
I'm almost positive. Double check, but I'm almost positive. Yeah, because the Titanic was going...
Yes. Yeah. Starboard is right. Yeah. Port is left. Okay, so it creates holes in 5 of the watertight compartments. However, the ice may not have actually punctured the ship. It just dented it so much that the hull plates and the cheap-ass rivets failed. causing the whole thing to buckle and allowing water to rush in. It wasn't too long before the captain, Thomas Andrews, and other crew realized that the ship is way too far damaged and that it was going to sink.
Can you imagine?
No, because, like, okay, so Captain Smith had already had rumors of ice in the area. He kept it full speed ahead. Thomas Andrews was behind this, thinking the ship's unsinkable. Now, okay, they've realized the ship's going to sink, but they also realize there are only 20 lifeboats with a capacity of 47 people each, which is only room for
so just
840 people.
So how many people are on this altogether with crew?
2,224.
Okay. So can you imagine? No, you can't. No one can. I couldn't fathom being in that position where you're like, yeah, what do I just radio that everyone's going to die? Like we're dead. We're over.
Do you know why there was only 20 lifeboats?
Didn't they want to make more room for, or they didn't want people to see it? Wasn't it something?
They didn't want the decks to be too cluttered where the first class passengers.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Ignorant. Idiocracy.
All right. So as we all know, over the next 2.5 hours, the ship plunges into the ocean, right? So it becomes clear that there's no other ships in the area that would be able to come rescue the passengers. The crew went into panic. They start to send the lifeboats down. Some weren't even half full. So it begins sinking faster and faster as it takes on water.
I'm sweating so bad.
Right? So were the people on this boat or ship? So at about 2 a.m, right, the bow is underwater and the stern is just basically sticking straight up. So that is the front is the bow and the back is the stern. About 2:10 a.m, the ship splits in half and the bow barrels to the bottom of the ocean. The stern remained for a few minutes, kind of bobbing, and at 2:20 a.m. on April 14th, it also sinks right to the bottom of the Atlantic.
It's so sad.
So sad. I mean, it dropped basically 1,500 people into water that was 28 degrees.
And we don't have time, but I feel like everybody knows about the Titanic. And if you don't, there's so much stuff on it. But the stories of like why people were on the boat, like the passengers and like where they were going to, what their reasonings were. And like it is so, so incredibly heartbreaking for some of these people, all of these people. But, you know, some of them were like truly escaping things. And like it's just.
Oh, yeah. Sadly, only 706 of the 2,224 survive. So now, more than 100 years later, where obviously people are still talking about it, it is such an iconic tragedy, which is a weird sentence to say. A lot of people believe that it was simply a mixture of the crew pushing the ship to its limits, ignoring the warnings of ice and the lack of lifeboats that caused the tragedy. But there's a couple other theories out there. So are you ready to get into some of them now?
I mean, I think I know most of them, but yes, I'm sweating because it's just.
Let's go. Okay, so the first one, did the Titanic even sink at all?
No, because it was another ship.
Boom. Okay, so the Titanic and its sister ship? The sister ship, the Atlantic, were being built
at the same time. Our faces were the exact same. We just had the exact same facial expression.
Yeah, no, I can't say words. So, a gentleman named Robert Gardiner actually was the first to bring up this theory that we're going to talk about in his book called Titanic, the Ship That Never Sank, ? His theory is the Titanic didn't sink at all and was actually, in fact, replaced with its sister ship that was being built at the same time, the Olympic.
Correcto mundo.
So the two were built side by side. However, the Olympic was built more cheap, and the Titanic was the one built with all the luxuries.
Unsinkable.
Well, both were technically supposed to be. Except the Olympic was smaller than the Titanic by 3 whole inches. So the Olympic actually launched prior to the Titanic in June of 1911, crosses the Atlantic in 7 days, which is still record-setting at the time. So it starts making the trip back and forth, and it ends up crashing bow first into the HMS Hawke, a British warship. So the Olympic was damaged, but it was repairable because these ships were actually really designed to like be able to lose the entire front of the ship and stay afloat. That's what the watertight compartments were for. However, the White Star Line was actually found to be responsible for the accident and made to pay for it. White Star Line at this time, building these ships, by the way, was at the risk of going under because there was so much other competition right now. They were kind of being knocked from first place. Okay, so the crazy thing is, though, so the Titanic's maiden voyage was actually supposed to be on March 20th, but due to the repairs being made on the Olympic, they had to push it back to April. March 20th is my birthday, so I think that's kind of funny.
Oh my God.
Obviously, the Olympic, it took the damage. It really just strengthened, though, the White Star Line's belief that their newest ships were unsinkable. Now, we're going to get into the theory. So some people believe, though, that because the Olympic was already damaged, and the White Star Line that was already struggling was going to have to pay for repairs to the damage of the Hawk, and on top of that now lost profits by pushing back the launch of the Titanic, that in order for the White Star Line to stay afloat, they decided insurance fraud is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So what they claim to have done is actually switched the Olympic and the Titanic. So they repair the Olympic, they put all the same luxuries into that boat. They actually replaced, supposedly all of the carpets so that none of the crew would even see that it had been walked on.
Right, because
everyone
they were
believed that they were on the Titanic.
tricking everybody.
Right. So they retrofitted everything, right? And then somehow the theory goes that the entire accident with the iceberg was staged. So there were actually crew members who were in on this to help stage the accident so that the White Star Line could recoup their costs. There's just some, and this is widely held belief. Obviously there's been more than one book on this and tons of people believe it.
Maybe you're going to get into this, but have you looked at the comparison pictures? Because the boats don't look the same. And the boat that's underwater, that is said to be the Titanic's windows, match the windows of not the Titanic.
Incorrect a little bit. There's, what part is it? It's the B deck. That's the one that everyone always focuses on, the windows being different. Now, the Titanic's B deck and the Olympic's B deck looked completely different because of the first class promenade. And there's pictures of the Titanic under the water that the B deck promenade actually matches what the Titanic should have looked like. So if it was the Olympic, they would have seen some stark differences in the windows. The other and the biggest thing that I think debunks this is that, so all the parts on the boats were either stamped with 400 for the Olympic and 401 for the Titanic. And everything that's been recovered from the shipwreck at the bottom of the Atlantic is stamped with 401.
Yeah. But they do also say, though, that the corrosion of the ship makes it look so different that people are going off of corroded windows and shit. So they're like...
There are some pictures I was looking at while doing the research that are close, and there are some weird things that make this believable at times. I think the part number is the one that really seals it.
Yeah, I do remember that.
There's also a British historian, his name is Gareth Russell, who calls the theory so painfully ridiculous that one can only lament the thousands of trees which lost their lives to provide the paper on which it has been articulated.
Oh.
I think he feels a little bit strongly about
Say
this.
that to me one more time.
So the theory is so painfully ridiculous that one can only lament the thousands of trees which lost their lives to provide the paper on which it has been articulated. I love those British
wish I could
burns.
remember how to say that to somebody for an argument later.
Right? All right, so theory number 2.
So yeah, number 1, insurance.
Insurance fraud. Titanic never actually sank. It was switched with the Olympic.
Correct.
Number 2, and this is one of the ones that I think
are plausible.
Very plausible.
Okay.
So the one thing obviously everyone agrees on is that the Titanic did hit an iceberg. However, a lot of people actually agree on the fact that the Titanic was on fire from the day and actually prior to it setting sail. So gonna back up a little bit. So one of the reasons it was thought to be unsinkable was because of the large bulkheads that ran along the entire ship, right? So they went from the crew area and the steam engines and everything right up into the passenger decks. So it would take a lot of water to go over one of the bulkheads, which kept it, watertight if it took on water in 1, 2, or 3 of them. Once it was past 3, that's when it started to get... So a researcher and journalist from Ireland and I'm probably going to say this wrong. I think his name is Shonen Maloney, has been studying the Titanic for 30 years. And he's been on the fact that there was a coal fire that probably had something to do with the sinking. So he finally discovers a collection of photos of the Titanic from right before it launched that confirms, at least for him, that the Titanic was on fire for days and it caused structural damage to the bulkheads. So what he finds basically is a picture of the hull from outside of the ship that was way darker than the rest of it, which he thinks is proof that it was the fire. This dark area is right where the Titanic collides with the iceberg. Not only that, it was really well documented that there was a coal fire. So during the testimony after the ship sinking and they were talking to surviving crew, more than one had stated that in the storeroom for the coal, it had caught on fire. And coal, which is used for coal or for fuel, is obviously super hard to put out once it's smoldering. Like it basically just continues to smolder and can actually go up to like 1800 degrees. Okay, so the fire is actually so well documented that 3 to 4 men claimed that they had actually tried to put it out and found that the only way they could actually combat the fire on the open ocean was to continue to throw it into the furnaces. So they were trying to get the burning coal.
Okay, I was going to ask, because I remember something about the furnaces. So yeah, okay, that makes... Okay.
So if we're going to look at why the ship ignored ice warnings and was making record time across the Atlantic, it could be because the crew was actually trying to put out the burning coal as fast as they could and just loading it into the furnaces.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess because you're just consumed with that, that's why you'd be ignoring the ice warnings. But like, I still feel like I would think
they just knew they had to get to New York as fast as possible.
As fast as they could. No, I understand that, but it's like, I don't know. But that does
right?
seem plausible for sure, yeah.
You have coal burning up to 1800 degrees, and the storeroom would have been right against the biggest bulkhead that failed. And some crew even testified that they saw the bulkhead damaged and partially crumbled from the fire. Mm-hmm. So when the water starts to rush in, the thing basically just goes down right away, and the watertight compartments are screwed from the beginning. Because honestly, if the bulkheads would have held their water, the ship would have stayed afloat for hours and hours and would have been rescued. Now, the biggest problem is even though this came up during the testimony, nobody ever really investigated it until years and years after. And now the ship's been sitting at the bottom of the Atlantic, so anything you could try to find to prove this theory,
right,
totally gone.
Yeah.
But that with the photos and the fact that people confirmed, like, that holds true to me.
All right, so insurance fraud, burning.
And now the most ridiculous one of them all. Some people believe that the Titanic was doomed to sink because it was carrying an unlucky mummy from Egypt.
Oh, I did hear this.
So we're going to go back 3,500 years.
I like this.
Amun-Ra, an Egyptian princess, is buried deep within a vault in Luxor. In the 1890s, so about 20 years before the Titanic is built and, takes its maiden voyage, 4 Englishmen were invited to buy the mummy case from the remains of the princess's vault. So they get their money together, they buy it. The man who is in charge of the whole thing, right? So the leader of the 4, the same day they bought it, they see him later that day walking into the desert, and he never returned.
Of course.
The following day, one of the remaining 3 was accidentally shot in the arm, had to have it amputated. The third of the 4 men, on his return trip home with the mummy, was told that the bank holding his entire fortune had failed and he was broke. And the 4th man, back in England, suffered a severe illness, lost his job, and became a beggar. So the mummy at least makes it to England by them and is eventually donated to the British Museum, where it's called the Unlucky Mummy. And I say mummy, at this point, it's really just the casing the mummy was kept in, not an actual mummy. So similar to the Hope Diamond, those who moved it to the museum ended up either in car accidents.
I'm going with this one.
Or the casket was brought into the museum by 2 men, and one of them fell and broke his legs while carrying it. And the other one died 2 days later, who had been in perfectly good health. So the Unlucky Mummy name sticks. It's later bought by a private collector who sold it to an American archaeologist, and he arranged for the mummy to be shipped to New York on none other than the Titanic. So, lots of people think that the cursed mummy is the reasoning behind all the tragedy.
I think that's accurate.
And now for the facts to just crumble you.
It wasn't on the ship.
There was supposed to be a mummy on the Titanic. And the only name for this piece was number 22542, which is in fact only the lid, like we said, the casing of what held the mummy. Nobody knows why, but it never made it on the ship. And number 22542 is still in the British Museum today. So most people think that it started kind of as like a hoax story, and it's continued on and taken a life of its own.
If it was on the ship, though, that's exactly why it sunk.
Oh, yeah. But nope, apparently it never made it there. So,
which is very odd.
Although, weirder things have happened. Maybe it made it on there. Number 22542 is just something different. Like, right. God only knows. That's the thing with these theories is you cannot prove or disprove any of them because there's the
no way
is
to.
In such bad shape.
Okay. Is that the last theory?
There's one last one that's not a conspiracy, but is actually what I heard this a couple of years ago, and I find this to be just the most sensical thing of what may have happened, right? So we know Fred Fleet was on the lookout, and he did not see the iceberg until it was too late.
Don't they think he fell asleep?
No.
Or passed out? He was drunk or something? What was it?
No, it could have been completely natural. So the night the Titanic sank in 2012, actually, they started to study what the weather was on these nights.
Yeah, I remember. You sent this to me.
So they found the weather conditions were right for a phenomenon known as super refraction, where basically due to the cold water, the cool air temperature, and the way the light bends when it changes temps between the two, there could have been a mirage created that changed the actual horizon.
Which makes so much sense.
Right. So the bending of the light would have put the horizon line higher than where it actually was.
And that was always the thing, is that people are like, how did they not see this huge iceberg? It does not make sense. Yes, you could say that they were trying to...
It makes no sense.
You could say that they were trying to put out this fire. They're trying to put that out and they're not paying attention or whatever, but it just doesn't make any sense.
No, but this makes so much sense. Like this false horizon would have sat above where the iceberg was until it's like when you're driving, you think you see a puddle on the road, but that doesn't disappear until you're right
there. No, for sure. I'm with this one for sure.
So, I mean, you mix it, the speed, the ignored warnings about ice, and the fact that the lookouts were basically looking at camouflaged water lines and couldn't tell where the actual water ended and started. You have the perfect recipe for the disaster.
Okay,
right,
that's logical, and that's most likely what happened. If we're going conspiracy, I still think if you're going conspiracy, what one are you picking?
I'm thinking the coal fire is the most logical to me. There's still do your own research though on it being.
There's so much information about each of these though.
I know, mixed with the Olympic, because
oh no, I'd be thinking Amun-Ra.
While okay, so I said what really disproved it. But if you look at the amount of famous and rich people who should have been on the Titanic, that at the last moment did not.
So I think you should have touched on that, because that is what makes a lot of people why did all of those people all of a sudden drop out? Like
J.D. Powers, Hershey,
a lot
of the chocolate. Now there were some who died though, oh my gosh, I can't think of her name. The one who did the lingerie, or we have the co-founder of Macy's who passed away on the ship.
Yes, but there was a whole thing about how they were all intertwined and why those specific people didn't get on, because they were I don't quite remember, were they family or friends, and just I don't know. There's just so much to it.
I think it would be a lot more believable had they put enough lifeboats on. So had they actually thought this ship would sink, why would they not have used the rest of the deck space to make enough lifeboats to save everyone?
Well, I mean, it was for the vanity of it. It didn't want to be seen.
True.
I mean, that's really the reason why, is because they didn't think that they were going to need them and they didn't want to look at it.
By the way, there's 15 other conspiracies out there.
Oh no, there's so many, it's ridiculous.
Do your own research.
Okay, so this is the question that I have, and I know everybody else has. Do you think that Jack could have fit on that door? and survived.
Absolutely, he could have fit on the door. There was so much room. I think the thing that makes me so mad about the movie is Rose going, and I know it's metaphorical, but she goes, "I'll never let go," and 2 seconds later, she lets go of his hand. Like, you could have at least hulked his corpse up on there to, like, bring it back to America.
I don't know. In our friendship of whatever years it is now, I have heard you say that so many times in reference to so many other things. Like, I'll never let go. And then she let go. It is like, it angers you.
Oh, it makes me so mad.
So deeply. And it is so funny to me.
I also just realized, and this wasn't even planned.
Yeah.
My wine glass says,
you're blurry,
I want you to draw me like one of your French girls.
You're blurry, but I was like, that's probably a Titanic wine glass.
I didn't even think about it when I grabbed it.
I can't remember who was interviewing Leo, but they asked him, like, the question everybody's been asking for years. It was like pretty recently too. Like, don't you think Jack could have fit on the door? And he literally just said nothing. You
know what's even more frustrating is that everybody calls it a door when it was quite plainly the door frame and not even the door itself.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't even think the door was right when I said it, but but here's the thing also. That bitch could have like let go for a few minutes, let him kind of get on it. If you couldn't both be on it, like, we could take turns. What type of soulmates are they if we're not even
Do you know how crushed I was as a child to find out that Jack and Rose weren't even real? Devastated. Because like 90% of the other people depicted in that movie were real passengers on the Titanic.
Yes, they were.
I mean, there's scenes that are literally recreation of historical photos.
For sure. But they had to put a little love story in there to intrigue people, to get people to come in, and like, what better way to do it than put some Leo, young, fine ass Leo in there. Ugh. Kate Winslet being naked. They had to draw in the audience, okay?
Okay. So I wasn't going to say it, but
your face, just your eyes smiled so big.
So Kate Winslet was the first naked woman I ever saw in my life watching the Titanic.
Make you feel? You wish that it was Leo instead?
Well, I mean, I didn't know at that time, but my family will never let me live this down because, you know, she's standing there, she drops the robe and you get the full backside, right? I was way too young to probably have watched this movie at 8 years old when it came out, but I just go, ooh, look at her butt crack.
Oh my God, I remember you telling me this. And that is so cute.
My mom has never let me forget it.
Because that's so cute. What did you say when you saw her boobs?
I don't remember. I was apparently more involved with the butt crack.
Yeah, because you're not into boobs. Well, you like boobs, though.
Anyways, I do. I could talk for days and days about the Titanic. I'll probably find another excuse to bring it up in another episode in the future. But I think we should let everyone go.
We can, but for the supernatural fans out there, I will get Zach to listen to it one day. It's fine. We're gonna have a spinoff podcast where we make him watch it. But there's an episode, I know I told you about it, but there's an episode where I think it's like one of the angels goes rogue and he's just like disobeying things. And so I don't want to spoil it, but anyway, it's a Titanic episode and he just decides that he's going to make the Titanic not sink. But the ripple effect of that is that like 50,000 people or whatever it is, because it's them, their family and all this, like from whatever year, you know, whatever, they all have been living. And then because it's like you messed up destiny, all these people are like dying sporadically. And it's just like, it's really funny because they're like, the Titanic, like, why would you pick the Titanic? And he's like,
it would be so crazy.
No, because he's like, because I really hated that movie and I don't like that everybody likes it. And they're like, that's why. It's so funny.
It is wild to think about though, like how different the world would look if
you could say that about
those
everything.
Passengers hadn't passed. Yeah, for sure.
Or a thing.
But we also wouldn't have the safety standards we do on boats today. Ships.
Well, I'm sure we would by this point, but
right.
I'm actually so surprised that you did the Titanic because you love it so much you didn't want to do it.
I know, but
I wasn't going to do it, so you had to.
Thank you, Sarazona.
All right. Do you have anything else to add to it? Close out?
I think we've gone on long enough today. I think it's time to just let them go.
All right. Well, yeah, I think that's all we have for you. I'm like tired.
Thanks
Yeah.
for listening, as
Thanks.
always.
Do all the things we always ask you to do. We appreciate you. Follow our TikTok now because we have one.
We're trying our best to make some for you.
And most importantly, creep it real, you oddballs.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Oddity Shop.